This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, July 11th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Without closure, Texans struggle to recover from catastrophic flooding.
People from all over Texas continue to show their support.
I'm Clayton Neville.
A federal judge issues a nationwide block against President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The U.S. has taken part for the first time in a meeting of nations willing to send troops to Ukraine. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The Trump administration has opened a civil rights investigation into the hiring practices at George Mason University. Mike Hempen, Washington.
On Wall Street, the S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ each open at record highs again this morning. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
31 construction workers were rescued from a partially collapsed industrial tunnel in Los Angeles. I'm Donna Warder.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump travels to Texas to survey the devastation which continues to unfold 1 week after catastrophic floods tore through the state's hill country, leaving behind a massive death toll and scores still reported missing. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports questions continue to unfold as to if and how this tragedy could have been avoided.
The Guadalupe River rose 26 feet in 45 minutes in the early morning hours of July 4th. Destruction and death left behind. Painful and many heroic stories, though, are still emerging.
For many who were affected by this tragedy, the pain will never go away.
Senator John Cornyn of Texas shared the stories of some of the young victims and their families on the Senate floor.
These two young girls were sleeping in a cabin called the Bubble Inn, which was close to the banks of the Guadalupe River. Lenny attended Cassis Elementary School in West Austin, and her father, Michael, drove down to the hill country to search for his daughter.
While in distress, families still helping one another.
He told a reporter that when he went to the cabin at Camp Mystic and saw the stuffed animals, charm bracelets, and photos, he wanted to take some of those for each parent, even while he himself was looking for answers about his own daughter.
Agencies from states across America are in Texas on the ground helping.
People from all over Texas, all over the country, continue to show their support in so many ways, and we are thankful.
Kerrville Police Sergeant Jonathan Lamb says rescue efforts continue over the weekend.
If family members had reported a loved one missing and they've returned safely, we ask that you notify us through kerrvillemissing@dps.texas.gov or call 830-258-1111.
Still plenty of questions about why the death toll is so high. Could this have been avoided, and what's in place as of right now to make sure that it doesn't happen again? Sergeant Lamb addressed those questions.
I think that's an important question, and as we are aware, we've been very weather alert throughout the entirety of this, and that's something that we're going to be looking at.
State lawmakers in Texas plan to meet later this month in a special session to talk about ways more people can be assured that they receive weather warnings and alerts. Between now and then, though, it's about recovery. FEMA's director front and center, not for being on site, though. Typically, the FEMA administrator is on the ground pretty quick. Not in this tragedy. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was there a day after the floods, though, and many now speculating if the absence of the FEMA administrator is a sign that President Trump is going to get rid of the agency, as he has suggested that he could. I'm Clayton Neville.
Illegal immigrants have been blocked from accessing taxpayer-funded services. Programs include tax-funded aid to enroll in educational programs and health care benefits. Trump's desire to end birthright citizenship has hit a snag. Here's John Stolnis from Washington.
On his first day in office last January, the president signed the executive order stating that the government will not issue documents recognizing U.S. citizenship to children born to parents who were in the United States illegally.
We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, we'll see. We have very good ground.
Judge Joseph LaPlante issued Thursday's ruling, noting that the nationwide injunction comes as part of a widespread block through a class action lawsuit being brought by immigration rights attorneys. Last month, the Supreme Court limited the conditions under which lower court judges could issue nationwide injunctions, but left open the ability of plaintiffs, like these immigrant right groups, to do so through class action lawsuits. Cody Wofsy, lead attorney in the class action suit, tells ABC News this is a major decision.
As you know, the Supreme Supreme Court recently opened the door to the potential enforcement of this grossly unconstitutional order against some children. And what today's order means is that no child in the country can be subjected to this order. No child citizenship can be stripped away. It covers every single person across the country, and so is an important and major victory for immigrant communities and for these children.
Legal analysts say this ruling could prove to be a way for other plaintiffs to skirt the Supreme Court's ruling and halt executive orders they deem to be harmful or unconstitutional. In a statement, the White House says they will be fighting vigorously against the attempts of, quote, rogue district court judges to impede the policies President Trump was elected to implement. John Stolnis, Washington.
Russia intensifies military efforts against Ukraine, and another college under the microscope by the Trump administration. When America in the Morning returns after these messages. America in the Morning continues with severe weather in the offing this Friday. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with details.
A couple of different weather features not separated by too substantial of a distance will bring a couple of closely separated areas with the risk for severe weather today. Areas from northeastern New Mexico and the westernmost corner of both the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles, northward through the I-90 corridor of Wyoming, may face thunderstorms with hail and strong wind gusts of at least 55 to 65 miles per hour, as well as downpours that could cause flash flooding. Farther to the east, the risk for tornadoes will also join the mix for areas from northern Missouri northward to Minnesota and eastward toward the Detroit metro area. However, between those zones, places from central North Dakota into much of Kansas may not have too much at all in terms of thunderstorms today. Things will be different in the east and the south, though, with plenty of moisture remaining in place with just enough of a favorable setup to continue to lead to some thunderstorms. Places from Mississippi and Alabama through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys into northwestern Virginia and western Maryland could have a thunderstorm around at any time, with more typical afternoon development favored from Louisiana toward southeast Texas, as well as from Florida northward into eastern Pennsylvania and the lower Hudson Valley, some perhaps with a brief stronger wind gust. Much of northern New England could get a storm at any time, mainly near the Canadian border, but places from the New England coast through much of New Jersey may sneak in a dry Friday. For the western states, today brings a rather comfortable end to the week from northern Montana westward behind a cold front, but it's going to stay hot in the interior southwest under high pressure. In Fresno, California, today brings a sunny and hot day with a high of 105. For Birmingham, Alabama, it's a humid Friday to come with clouds and sun and a thunderstorm, the high 86. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. As attacks by Russia against Kyiv intensifies, there are nations willing to send troops to Ukraine in the future. The United States participating in meetings to do so. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
The U.S. has taken part for the first time in a meeting of nations willing to send troops to Ukraine as part of policing any future peace deal with Russia. Before the so-called Coalition of the Willing, Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the American presence and thanked President Trump.
His signals are very, very important, and we count on it.
The group's success hinges on American backup, but the Trump administration so far has made no commitments, with even current military support in question. Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni says that makes the U.S. presence all the more important.
Western unity, as I've been saying many times, is fundamental.
The meeting came on the sidelines of an annual Ukraine recovery conference, where European leaders announced a new equity fund and urged private businesses to invest in a rebuilding effort estimated to cost more than $500 billion over the next decade. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A university in Virginia, that's a short drive from the White House, becomes the state's second school facing a Trump administration investigation. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The Trump administration has opened a civil rights investigation into the hiring practices at George Mason University. The Education Department says it's responding to a complaint filed by multiple professors at George Mason who claim the university is favoring those from underrepresented groups. The complaint takes aim at GMU President Gregory Washington, saying he issued guidance that favored faculty candidates based on diversity considerations rather than credentials. A recent Justice Department investigation at the University of Virginia prompted the school's president, James Ryan, to resign. Until recently, the Trump administration's efforts to reshape diversity policies in higher education focused on elite private institutions such as Harvard and Columbia. Mike Hempen, Washington.
Brazil, what's the beef? When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Winning ways on Wall Street continue. This is America in the Morning. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Friday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after another record-setting day for stocks yesterday. The S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ at new highs. Investors brushing off new tariff fears. The Dow was up 190 points. Bitcoin with a fresh record high at more than $113,000. President Trump threatening new higher tariffs on products coming in from Brazil. You might want to brace for even higher prices for burgers, steaks, and coffee. Let's start with beef. Beef futures hit a record high yesterday.
This tariff is significant given that Brazil is one of the U.S.'s largest beef suppliers and was already facing a 26.4% tariff. In April, Brazil overtook Australia as the single largest supplier to the U.S. The majority of what's coming in, known as grinding beef, used for things like hamburgers at fast food restaurants or pre-made meals. Now, this could exacerbate already high prices with beef outpacing overall inflation.
That's CNBC's Pippa Stevens. Here's a look at coffee prices, especially at the big chains. Here's Kate Rogers.
Brazil is a key import partner for U.S. coffee retailers, accounting for about 22% of U.S. coffee imports last year. The two names that have exposure here, Starbucks and Dutch Bros, which source 22% and 56% of their beans from Brazil. Coffee is very discretionary. Coffee is an easy thing to cut out of your ritual and make at home.
Amazon's Prime Day sale wraps up tonight. Walmart and Target go a little longer. For shoppers, it's Christmas because they want to get stuff before prices go up because of the tariffs this fall.
Consumers are overbuying. The tariff extension was the greatest thing to ever happen to Prime Day because it's further consumer confusion. The consumer's saying, wait a minute, now it's going to be in August, and then what? Is it going to be in September? So what we're seeing very different this year than any other Prime Day, or in this case, Prime Few Days, is massive holiday purchasing. Buying all her back-to-school goods. She's buying gift wrap. Yeah. So you're buying everyday goods this Prime Day, and you're buying holiday season.
United Nation Consumer Suppliers CEO Brett Rose on CNBC. CNBC is out with America's top state for business.
North Carolina, the Tar Heel state, with top 5 finishes in economy, solid growth, and entrepreneurs' dream, workforce, and business friendliness. Like Jet Zero, just last month, promising more than 14,000 jobs building fuel-efficient airliners in Greensboro. A big win in a state still recovering from tragic loss. Hurricane Helene, a $60 billion disaster, worsening a statewide housing shortage. But through it all, the state keeps growing. North Carolina, America's top state for business, 2025.
That's CNBC's Scott Cohn. On today's watch list, free Slurpees. It's 7-Eleven Day and new in theaters, Warner Brothers' Superman.
Super. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, big recall by automaker Ford after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Well, some in the city of Los Angeles are calling it a miracle. Donna Warder reports on the successful rescue the other day of 31 construction workers in a partially collapsed tunnel in Los Angeles.
LA Interim Fire Chief Ronnie Villanueva.
It was determined that a structure failure of the tunnel lining failed approximately 5 to 6 miles in, trapping that we thought 27 individuals. 4 actually went in to rescue.
Authorities say the workers climbed over more than 12 feet of soil to reach a boring machine, and all were transported back to the one single opening of the tunnel.
When we raced down here, I was so concerned that we were going to find tragedy. Instead, what we found was victory. All of the men that were in that tunnel rescued up safe.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says that on the way to the scene, she thought the worst.
We're all blessed today in Los Angeles. No one injured, everyone safe.
All audio courtesy of KABC. I'm Donna Warder.
There's a massive recall involving vehicles made by Ford. Lisa Dwyer tells us why.
Ford is recalling more than 850,000 of its cars across the U.S. because the low-pressure fuel pump inside the vehicles may fail and potentially could cause an engine to stall. The recall covers a wide range of Ford and Lincoln-branded vehicles, including certain Ford Broncos, Explorers, and F-150s, as well as Lincoln Aviators and Navigators. Ford plans to send out notification letters to affected owners starting July 14th. As for a remedy, that's still under development. Ford says that it is not aware of any accidents or injuries related to this recall. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Friday, July 11th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The wife of a high-profile politician in Texas files for divorce. I'm Clayton Neville.
Mahmoud Khalil tells the Associated Press no one should have to go through what he went through.
The harm is already there.
Julie Walker, New York.
President Donald Trump has singled out Brazil for import taxes of 50%. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A paddled boarder found dead in Maine has shaken a tight-knit community. I'm Sue Aller.
After just 3 days of the U.S. southern border being open to Mexican livestock, it is now closed again. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The new Superman flies into theaters this weekend, but is it worth seeing? I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Coughing? Check your air quality alert. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
With several active wildfires continuing in parts of Canada, including central and southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and western Ontario, winds high up in the atmosphere shifting to come from that general area will mean the return of fairly widespread impacts from smoke in the coming days, at least through the upcoming weekend, from east central Montana toward the Ohio Valley. These impacts are expected to be the worst from the Dakotas, especially North Dakota, into the upper peninsula of Michigan, where the thickest smoke is expected to have the highest chance of resulting in another round of poor air quality, especially among sensitive groups. In terms of today's precipitation, the center of the nation will be where thunderstorms through the day will be most likely to turn severe, as a series of small-scale disturbances and a cold front combine to make for a rather complex setup. The takeaway is that 2 areas with a higher risk for severe weather are expected today, one from northeastern Wyoming and southeastern South Dakota through northeastern New Mexico, and the other, potentially more active zone from north-central Minnesota south to the north side of Kansas City, then north and east from there through most of lower Michigan. In both areas, storms may produce localized damaging wind gusts as well as hail, flooding downpours, perhaps some tornadoes as well, though tornadoes will be more likely in the Midwest than in the high plains. Elsewhere, the coverage of any gusty thunderstorms continues to decline in the Northeast for the most part, but storms may fire up from northern New England southwestward through the Houston area and eastward right to the coast from Delaware to Florida, with showers around the Montana-Wyoming border and a good portion of the west staying dry today as some more comfortable air works into the north and west. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. The embattled Texas Attorney General, who's running to unseat the state's senior U.S. Senator, is facing a high-profile divorce and questions from his own party. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Texas State Senator Angela Paxton posted on social media that she's filing for divorce on biblical grounds after 38 years of marriage with Ken Paxton, who she has kids and grandchildren with.
I'm a pistol packing mama, and my husband sues Obama. I'm a pistol packing mama, yes I am.
Angela Paxton has been a long supporter of her husband's, and for a chunk of his political career was open about their relationship, even on stage with a guitar. This from a political rally in 2016.
I finally told him at one point, I said, I think I can live with just knowing two things. One, if you are going to come home in time for dinner and you would like food, I need a heads up, because otherwise we're probably having cereal. The second is, if you're going to come home after I've already gone to bed, and I need a heads up so you don't get shot.
In 2023, the couple's marriage made global headlines when the Attorney General was being impeached and members of his staff unveiled an affair that he had before he was eventually acquitted.
Mr. Paxton revealed that he had been engaged in an extramarital affair and asked for our forgiveness.
In Angela Paxton's post this week, she said she believes marriage is a sacred covenant and that she's earnestly pursued reconciliation. She said, though, that in light of recent discoveries, she doesn't think it honors God or is loving to herself, her children, or kin to stay in the marriage. The divorce filing said that the Attorney General had committed adultery and said the couple stopped living together last summer. Paxton, who's currently running to unseat Texas's Republican senior Senator John Cornyn, posted on social media, quote, "After facing the pressures of countless and political attacks and public scrutiny, Angela and I have decided to start a new chapter in our lives. I'm Clayton Neville."
The numbers are staggering, with over 120 dead now in Texas from flooding. That includes 96 men, women, and children in Kerr County as the search for the missing enters its 8th day. In New Mexico, officials are promising help for residents caught in flash flooding there this week, where 3 people died, including 2 children of a U.S. soldier caught in the rushing floodwaters at an RV park. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
This is historic water levels that we experienced. The USGS, the United States Geological Survey gauge at Hollywood in the Rio Ruidoso crested at a historical high of 20 feet. Last year during the historic flood, it was over 15 feet. So we're 5 feet over last year.
New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham says that with a federal disaster declaration, the state should get the help it needs following Tuesday's flash flooding that caused much destruction to the town of Ruidoso and killed 3 people.
We want to make sure that you've got a wastewater treatment system that's secure. We want to make sure you got clean drinking water. We want to make sure that we're developing and garnering resources for individuals and families.
The governor says there is federal money the community has never received.
That's $12 million. That helps us do all the rest of the levee work that really needed to be in place because of the amount of water and how fast it moves.
Audio courtesy of KOAT. A presidential disaster declaration would mean more than $50 million for things like water rescues and damage to public infrastructure.
I can remember being at the softball fields and seeing my daughter playing and not even recognizing the field as I drove by a little while ago. Seeing an actual vehicle inside a home because of the power of the water. Those things leave an impact.
I'm Donna Warder.
Freed from ICE detention by orders of a judge, the former graduate student who was at the center of the Columbia University anti-Israel protests has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the Trump administration. Correspondent Julie Walker reports Mahmoud Khalil claims he's being punished for what he calls his advocacy.
Former Columbia University student and pro-Palestinian protester Mahmoud Khalil tells the Associated Press no one should have to go through what he went through, so he's using his arrest and detainment by the Trump administration to set an example.
What they did to me is they tried something. It failed, but still the harm is already there. So unless they feel that there's some sort of accountability for that, they would continue to go unchecked.
Khalil is a legal U.S. resident. He was not accused of breaking any laws during protests at Columbia, but the Trump administration has said non-citizens who participate should be expelled for what it deems anti-Semitic views.
I'm initiating a process to seek accountability from the Trump administration for false imprisonment, for warrantless arrest, for intentional infliction, emotional distress, all of these things that I had to go through.
It is appealing Khalil's release. Julie Walker, New York.
Change is on the horizon for U.S. taxpayers forced to front the cost of benefits for illegals. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. That cup of joe or a hamburger could start costing more. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports that President Trump is threatening a massive tariff on Brazil due to that country's criminal trial against its former president and Trump ally, Bolsonaro.
President Donald Trump has singled out Brazil for import taxes of 50%. That's for the country's treatment of its former president, Jair Bolsonaro. It shows that personal grudges, rather than simple economics, were driving the U.S. leaders' use of import taxes. During a White House meeting with African leaders, though, Trump talked up trade as a diplomatic tool for him to settle disputes.
You guys are going to fight, we're not going to trade. And we seem to be quite successful in doing that.
Trump avoided his standard form letter with Brazil, specifically tying his tariffs to the trial of Bolsonaro, who's charged with trying to overturn his 2022 election loss. Trump has described Bolsonaro as a friend and hosted the former Brazilian president at his Mar-a-Lago resort when both were in power in 2020. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Tariffs could also impact the price of beef used in American hamburgers as the U.S. imports millions of pounds of ground beef from Brazil. Trump also threatens on Truth Social to raise tariffs on Canadian imports by 35%. The Trump administration makes its biggest move to date to protect taxpayer-funded benefits for American citizens, not illegal aliens. That's the word directly from a White House statement. Programs offered through the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Education, Agriculture, and Labor are either ending, barring, or restricting grants, programs, and assistance. The Department of Justice will be closing long-standing loopholes that have allowed illegal aliens to access taxpayer-funded benefits as well. There's concern swirling surrounding the death of a woman who was simply paddleboarding in Maine. Sue Aller reports that little details and no suspects have people on edge.
A homicide. That's what authorities are saying in rural Maine as they are investigating the death of a paddleboarder on Crawford Pond. Kate Hammer, who lives in the area, spoke to CBS 13 News.
At first, a lot of people thought it was a boating accident, but it definitely does. I don't know, from how hush-hush they're being, it seems like maybe there's more going on.
48-year-old Sunshine Sunny Stewart disappeared on the evening of July 2nd while paddleboarding alone. Her body was discovered the next morning near 100 Acre Island, an island only accessible by boat. Meredith Smith also spoke with CBS 13 News.
When they said, it was her, I couldn't even believe it.
An autopsy confirmed her death was not accidental. Drowning and suicide has been ruled out, but the specific cause has not been publicly released.
Nobody would want to hurt Sunny. So it's really kind of scary for, all of us who live local.
Stewart was remembered by friends and family as a strong, adventurous woman whose sudden death has shaken the tight-knit community. Maine State Police say no suspects have been arrested yet and ask the public to remain vigilant and are urging anyone with new information to come forward. I'm Sue Aller.
A new college sports agency is rejecting some athlete name, image, and likeness deals. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh explains.
A new college sports agency has rejected certain NIL deals involving donor-backed collectives. These collectives, formed to funnel money to athletes or schools, failed to meet NCAA rules requiring deals to serve a valid business purpose. A letter sent to Division I athletic directors explained that deals solely raising funds for athletes, such as selling merchandise or hosting events, do not qualify. Schools can now pay players directly under the $2.8 billion House settlement. Over 1,500 deals have been approved through NIL Go, a clearinghouse launched in June. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
The CEO of X announces her vacating the big chair just one day after a very public display of some hateful content from their Grok AI. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
Linda Yaccarino, CEO of X, has just dropped the mic. Reuters broke the news on Wednesday and pointed out this comes just months after Musk's AI outfit has scooped up X for a cool $33 billion. Just one day before, it seemed like Grok, X's AI, was having a very public meltdown. Grok began posting anti-Semitic rages just weeks after Musk had told Grok to ditch the woke filter. This was likely due to some nefarious training by a bad actor, but shows a very weak spot in X's armor. Yaccarino's smooth touch did bring back some heavyweight advertisers like Disney and Comcast, and hinted at turning X into the everything app with Visa payments and more. The timing of her departure seems to be a coincidence, as she had hinted at it with insiders at X. Yaccarino's goodbye post did not mention what her plans were, but after being a major ad queen at NBC Universal, it seems like the world could be her oyster. You can find me on X at Chuck Palm.
Friday Sports has arrived. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball Thursday, talk about a comeback. Seattle's Brian Wu held the Yankees hitless through 7 innings and had a 5-0 lead. But New York rallied past the Mariners 6-5 in 10 innings. All-star Jazz Chisholm Jr. broke up the no-no with a leadoff single in the 8th. Giancarlo Stanton went deep, and in extras, Aaron Judge's sacrifice fly brought home the walk-off winner. Orioles took 2 from the Mets, 3-1 in the opener on a Gunnar Henderson pinch hit homer.
Anytime we can steal a game like that, it gives us a little extra confidence going into the next game and into our next series.
7-3 in the later game, a tater and 3 ribs for Jordan Westberg. Pete Crow Armstrong homered twice to lead the Cubs over the Twins 8-1.
I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about this series as a whole, I would have liked to spread them out maybe and pick a couple different spots, but I'm glad they came today.
Cardinals crunched the Nationals 8-1. Reds shut out the Marlins 6-0 behind the 4-hit pitching of Nick Lodolo and his friends in Lodolo places. Rangers rolled over the Angels 11-4. A's got by the Braves 5-4 in 11 innings. Red Sox shaded the Rays, and the Padres nipped the Diamondbacks. Guardians and White Sox rained out. They'll play 2 today. The All-Star Game is coming up Tuesday night in Atlanta. Soccer's FIFA Club World Cup final is Sunday. PSG from Paris and Chelsea from London meet at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And another upset at Wimbledon, this time the women's semifinal. American Amanda Anisimova ousted top seed Aryna Sabalenka in 3 sets. The 13 seed going to her first Grand Slam final tomorrow, where she'll meet Iga Swiatek, giving us a first-time Wimbledon champion on the women's side for the 8th year in a row. Today it's the men's semis, 4 of the top 6 seeds still standing. Their title match is on Sunday. That's Friday Sports.
Killer bees were just a warm-up. Now there's this when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This almost sounds like a bad science fiction movie. The U.S. government has plans to breed millions of flies and then drop them from planes over parts of the southern border. As Lisa Dwyer reports, the situation is all too real and has to do with new concerns over a flesh-eating fly.
After just 3 days of the U.S. southern border being open to Mexican livestock, it is now closed again after a flesh-eating parasite was found further north in Mexico than previously reported. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was critical of the closure based on just one case. suggesting that the U.S. is exaggerating the threat to its beef industry. The pest is the New World screwworm fly. Females lay eggs and wounds on warm-blooded animals. The larvae that hatch are unusual because they feed on live flesh and fluids instead of dead material. American officials worry that if the fly reaches Texas, its flesh-eating maggots could cause large economic losses. 3 weeks ago, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins announced plans for combating the parasite that include spending nearly $30 million on new sites for breeding and dispersing sterile male flies. Once released in the wild, the males mate with females, causing them to lay eggs that won't hatch. Eventually, the fly population dies out. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Some of us may be heading to the theaters to beat the heat as DC Studio reboots its superhero franchise with one of the biggest heroes of all time. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Superman.
Slip on your blue tights. It's time for a reboot of The Last Son of Krypton.
The most powerful being on planet Earth. We finally meet.
Superman follows billionaire Lex Luthor trying to take down the Man of Steel, while the Daily Planet tries to uncover an international conspiracy.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman.
Having extensively read the Superman comics, I was thrilled to see a version so close to the books. Writer-director James Gunn drops us right into the action with a brighter, more optimistic delivery.
Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
This is easily the best cast Superman film I've ever seen, with David Cornsweet holding things together. But others stand out, like Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Nicholas Hoult as a chilling Lex Luthor, and a slew of animators as Krypto the Superdog.
You have a dog?
And the film is more than just battles. It examines the nature of our own goodness, which comes from how you were raised rather than where you're from.
Your actions, that's what makes you who you are.
It also looks to the purpose of journalism, which is to ask the tough questions and not pander to advertising or powerful figures.
They chose him. Let them die.
This is certainly one of the best Superman movies ever made.
Buckle
Superman gets 4.5 capes out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
America in the Morning for Friday, July 11th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.